Hello and welcome to another episode of our Passion Week series called Old Testament Prophecies of Passion Week. In today's episode, we will be discussing the prophecies and symbolism seen during the rites and events of Pascha Wednesday. Today is a day of both love and betrayal, two extremes. We read of the extreme love and sacrifice of Mary as she anoints Jesus with fragrant oil and dries his feet with her hair, a joyous act of thanksgiving after Christ raised her brother Lazarus from the dead, while at the same time it foreshadows Christ's own death and burial. We also witness the betrayal of one of Christ's disciples that he chose and taught during his 3-year ministry. The first prophecy tells us of the Israelites' journey out of Egypt, representing the bondage of sin, into the wilderness, representing our life after baptism. Likewise, Christ has brought us out of slavery and has provided us with the Holy Spirit in our wilderness. In Exodus, we read how after Pharaoh let the people go, God was present with them in the form of a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire at night. Chapter 13, verses 17 to 22. Here is a contrast between God, who cares for us that he walks before us and shields us from the enemy, and Judas, who pursued selfishness, money, and betrayal. So, when we too commit sin or betray God, we are in opposition to God's nature and character. Pascha Wednesday is a day that the Coptic Church not only remembers during Passion Week, but weekly throughout the year. It is in remembrance of Judas's betrayal of Jesus Christ that we abstain from animal products on Wednesdays, except for during the Holy 50 days after Easter. So where in the Old Testament is Judas's betrayal of Christ foreseen? In Psalm 41 verse 9 we read that, "Even my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me." In the Gospel of St. Mark, the evangelist, the prophecy fulfillment simply reads, "Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray him to them." Chapter 14 verse 10. Prior to the treason, a plot to kill Jesus was conspired. After Jesus had finished preaching in the temple, the chief priests, scribes, and elders gathered and plotted to kill him. While the plot is mentioned at the start of both chapter 26 and 27 of the Gospel of Matthew, we can refer to the book of Psalms, specifically Psalm 31, where King David writes, "For I hear the slander of many, fear is on every side, while they take counsel together against me, they scheme to take away my life." Verse 13. Now, we know the book of Psalms is written by King David the prophet, and Christ is referred to as the son of David in the Gospel of Matthew, having been born of David's lineage through his earthly father Joseph. St. Matthew goes into finer detail with the fulfillment of another Old Testament prophecy when he describes Judas's betrayal before referencing in chapter 26 verses 15 and 16 that chief priests counted out to him 30 pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver was the price for a common slave at the time, but in the book of the prophet Zechariah, chapter 11, verse 12, we read, "Then I said to them, if it is agreeable to you, give me my wages, and if not, refrain. So they weighed out for my wages 30 pieces of silver." Another instance of Old Testament prophets prophesying the events of Passion. The final event relating to Judas that can be traced back to a prophecy in the Old Testament occurs a couple of days later on Good Friday, when Judas, feeling guilty, returned to the chief priests and tried to return the pieces of silver, saying he had sinned by betraying innocent blood, in Matthew chapter 27. They would not allow it, so he threw the coins onto the temple floor. Acknowledging the coins as blood money, it was unlawful for them to be placed in the treasury, so they were used to buy a potter's field, to bury strangers in what is called the field of blood. As written in the book of Zechariah, "Throw it to the potter, that princely price they set on me. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of the Lord for the potter." Chapter 11, verse 13. On Wednesday, we learn that God does not leave himself without witness, but is always present among us. Today, Mary is that joyful witnessing soul to the Lord. May we one day be worthy, O Lord. Please save us from straying down a sinful path so we can present before you pure and aromatic ointment. Join us again tomorrow as we continue our series by discussing the Old Testament prophecies of Covenant Thursday.